We've got several different stories to cover from several different media outlets. It's time for another episode of the world's news round. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Reganelite, and welcome to a premiere video of the world's news round, where I cover various different stories from outside the UK. We're going to be covering 6 different stories plus one funny video in between for this premiere video today. The first story that we will be covering is from CNN with the headline that Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners have been freed as Israel condemns frail appearance of captives. The next one we'll be looking at is an interesting one from the Associated Press about a New Mexico courtroom devolves into a brawl as 3 people rush defendant in the homicide case. Okay, I know. The next one we'll cover is from the BBC with the headline that Baltic states begin a historic switch away from Russia's power grid. Very interesting. We'll be looking into that. We'll have a funny video in between, and then we'll come back to our piece from Al Jazeera, where Iran dismisses talks with the US as it blasts the new sanctions from that. Then we will go to NBC with an exclusive from them at Trump is angry. The deportation numbers are not higher, apparently. And then finally, we're going to look at a piece from the New York Times with the headline that the judge halts access to Treasury payment systems by Elon Musk's team. That will be the last story that we will cover here. The date and time of this recording is the 8th of February at around 10 past 4 UK time, specifically, just for reference as well. Don't forget to hit that like button and share across social media. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Let's dive straight into it. The first headline here is Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners are freed as Israel condemns the frail appearances of captives. So far, so good, guys. In terms of the ceasefire, is still, at the time of this recording, is still being held. And that is a good thing. And that it seems that the hostages swap between Palestinian prisoners, Israeli hostages, it seems to be going smoothly so far. There's been a few shaky moments, and it is very, very fragile. That is absolutely true, but so far it's going as planned, which I have to say, and I'm very happy about that. I'm more, obviously, my mindset is more on the Palestinians rather than the Israelis, because a lot more lives, a lot more people have suffered under Israeli under captivity of Israel than the Israeli hostages have. But don't get me wrong, I'm very happy that those hostages have finally been freed. The mainstream media focuses on the Israelis held captive. They don't speak at all about the Palestinians and whatnot. But I want to be fair and biased here, and I really hope that this ceasefire continues to hold. And so far, it seems to be going smoothly so far. Do I expect it to last? No, I don't expect it to last. But this is where we are at so far, guys. So, 3 male Israeli hostages and 183 Palestinian prisoners were freed in the 5th round of exchanges between Israel and Hamas on Saturday, as Israel expressed concerns about the appearance of released captives. Omar Ben Amri, excuse me if I mispronounce the names, Emery Shabarodi or Ol Levi, all taken hostage during the Hamas-led October 7th attack on Israel, were handed to the Rest Cross in the central city of Deir al-Bashir on the day 491 of their captivity in Gaza. While the transfer was orderly, in contrast to chaotic scenes surrounding the release of Israeli and Thai hostages in Gaza last week, the 3 appeared thin and pale when they were led onto a makeshift stage. Israel later released all 183 Palestinian prisoners due to be freed on Saturday. Many of them appear immaculate and in poor health. We know that they have been. We know that from many stories that have been reported out there that they have been treated quite. I'm just going to swipe my camera. Sorry, apologies. We know that they've been treated quite cruelly and quite vile. Israel, when it comes to the looking after of Palestinian prisoners, they've been very, very. There have been stories that some of them have been beaten, stripped naked, all sorts of things, and there has been evidence of some of this, but obviously any kind of actions that have been taken on those who look after the prisons or those who run it, there's been nothing. On stage and surrounded by Hamas musicians, Ameri and Shabari, who were dressed in brown, and Levy, who were dressed in green, devolves speeches in Hebrew. They were then led to the Red Cross vehicles, waiting to be taken back to Israel. The Red Cross then passed the hostages to the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, in Gaza, who transferred them back to Israel, where they underwent an initial medical assessment before they reunited with their families. The images left Saturday's hostage handover have drawn condemnation from Israel. Levy, who was released and he was considered a humanitarian case, appeared particularly frail. The Israeli government described the scenes as shocking, as they said they would not go unaddressed, while Israel's hostages and missing family forums said the three hostages' appearances were disturbing. Yeah, don't mention what's happened to any Palestinians, yeah? Remember that. They don't talk about what's happened to the brutality of Palestinian prisoners under Israel's occupation. Remember, it's very one-sided, the mainstream media. Georgian Bastin, a veteran Israeli negotiator turned peace activist, said on Saturday that the condition of the released hostages would remind many Israelis of Nazi concentration camp survivors, and that it should compel us all to accelerate the release of all hostages. The Neo-Old Kibbutz in southern Israel, among the hardest hit in October 7th attacks, said it was happy and excited for the hostages' return on Saturday, adding these images and the conditions in which they returned will be etched in the memory of the world and will be eternal testimony to the failure. To all those who choose to oppose the deal, to all those who continue to explain why we should wait, postpone or hesitate. Ben Ami, 56, and Sharawi, 52, were both taken from their homes in Kibbutz Belsti, about 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles from the Gaza border. Ben Ami's wife and Raz Ben Ami, also taken captive that day, was freed during a short-lived truce in November 2023. Excuse me. Shabadi's wife and daughters were killed in the October 7th attack, according to Kibbutz. It's unclear if he knows they are dead. His brother Yoski Shabadi, who was taken captive, died in Gaza, where his body remains, according to Israeli military. Levy, 34, was attended in a Nora music festival in October 7th when he was kidnapped. His wife Ella was killed in the attack. Levy also has a 3-year-old son who will be reunited on his return to Israel. Hamas has now released a total of 16 Israeli hostages as part of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement, of a total of 33 promised at a staggering intervals during this stage. 8 of those 33 are dead, according to the Israeli government. Following the release of the 3 hostages on Saturday, Hamas and its allies still hold a total of 73 people taken from hostage on October 7, 2023, of 251 initially taken. 3 additional hostages held captive since 2014 are still in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel freed 183 Palestinians on Saturday. Some were released prisoners were brought from Ofar prison in the occupied West Bank to Ramadav, where videos of their release show some detainees weak and thin, with one man appearing so frail that he needed to be carried. Recently released Palestinian prisoners have returned from Israeli detention with signs of physical abuse and starvation, and have alleged abuse and torture. Yeah, well, I'm glad CNN have acknowledged this at least. The Israeli prison system has come under fire for intentionally reducing food services to Palestinian prisoners in what's been described as the minimum survival required for survival, on the orders of the then National Security Minister Ben Gvir last year. In comments made in April 2024, Gvir said Palestinian prisoners should be killed with a shot to the head, and called for a bill to allow the executions to be part in the Israeli Knesset. Until then, we will give them the bare minimum of food to survive. I do not care about this, he said in October. The Israeli Supreme Court ruled that the conditions in the notorious Saldaton detention center must comply with Israeli law. A spokesperson for the Israeli Prison Service IPS told CNN on Saturday that IPS operates according to the provisions of the law, and that all basic rights are required are fully applied by professionally trained prison guards. 18 of the Palestinian prisoners released Saturday were serving life sentences, while 84 had lesser sentences and 111 were detained in Gaza after October 7th, Hamas said in a statement. The charges against 111 were not clear. This man is so vile. Ben Gvir is if you haven't already known, this man is incredibly evil. He really is the definition of evil. Who wants to see their entire existence, Palestinians, wipe out. He would have them all completely wiped out. That kind of warped mind is terrifying. It's terrifying that there are people in power that have these terrifying minds, and he is one of them. Palestinian militias killed more than 1,200 people. Yep, we know about that. Yep, we know about that. We know about all this. Uncertainty looms over the future of the ceasefire and hostile agreement between Israel and Hamas. Negotiations on the extending Gaza ceasefire, which expires on March the 1st, are in doubt. Netanyahu has been deeply warned of phase 2 of the deal, which could see the full withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza and the return of the remaining hostages there. His finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, has pledged to quit the government if the ceasefire continues. Fueling more uncertainty, in remarkable comments on Tuesday evening, US President Donald Trump proposed that the US take over Gaza, relocate its residents to neighbouring countries, and really develop the war-torn enclave. His comments were welcomed by Israeli far-right ministers and condemned by Hamas. His comments drew international condemnation, with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer stressed that Palestinians must be allowed home, and France Minister for Foreign Affairs reiterating its opposition to any forced displacement. A Hamas official slammed Trump's proposal as a recipe for creating chaos and tension in the region. He said, "Our people in the Gaza Strip will not allow these plans to pass, and what is required is to end the occupation and aggression against our people, not expel them from their lands," Hamas spokesperson Sami Abu Shali has said. Yeah, we know that I've talked quite in detail about the comments from President Donald Trump when it comes to displacement. Quite openly about it, and Arab nations have rejected it. As we just read there, the British Prime Minister and many American so-called allies have rejected it. And I say so-called because right now the tension is very high because of Donald Trump and some of the actions and things that he is doing. But yeah, those on the far right obviously clearly wouldn't mind pushing them out. Whether they will be able to push them out or not is a question that will continue to be asked. The situation at the moment is obviously, as I said at the start, very fragile, and hopefully the second ceasefire will come to fruition. I don't think it will, because Netanyahu would have to betray his own government ministers, and they will walk out if he does. So I don't know what exactly he's going to do there. What I do know is that in politics sometimes things can get way, way, way too heated. Just like here in Mexico. This is from the Association Press. So a New Mexico courtroom devolves into a brawl as 3 people rush the defendant in a homicide case. This is quite insane. I've never. I wish I had video footage, guys, but unfortunately I do not, unless there's some from the Association Press here. Yeah, I mean, we've seen in some courts across the world in different places where they've openly attacked one another just over certain policies. Like, that's how much they really, really don't like a certain policy and whatnot. Yeah, it's pretty insane. So what happened here, guys? What happened here? So a hearing in a New Mexico courtroom devolved into chaos when 3 people rushed the defendant in a homicide case, setting off a brawl with flying fists and kicks. The courtroom video cameras recorded the January 31st melee, which subsidized as law enforcement officers drew a stun gun and protected the defendant from further attacks. Felony charges were filed against 2 men, battered and assault on a public official. And they apparently rushed the defendant in a fit of rage over the killing of a relative. The woman was also arrested on the same charge. Abuaki, TV station KRQE reported on Thursday. The courtroom video showed her hitting the defendant and an officer with the chair. Presence of correction officers and other security detail in the courtroom does not always keep the peace. Last year, a defendant in a felony battery case in Nevada flung himself over a judge's bench, grabbing her hair, sparking a brawl in the court officials. Kate Jo Watson, a court executive officer at New Mexico 2nd District Judicial District, told them that these are the types of things that we see regularly. Apparently, this is normal in Mexico, apparently. She praised the officer for reacting to ensure safety without mentioning potential security enhancements. The Association Press sent a request to the court Thursday for comment on the fight and security precautions. And that's all I've got for the story, guys. But I would have liked to have seen the video footage. Would have been interesting, to say the least there. But yeah, just because of how violent politics can get, because politics can get really violent. Excuse me. Yeah, it's pretty bonkers, but they say it's apparently it's a normal thing in Mexico. Apparently, I wasn't aware that it was a normal thing, if I'm honest. But yeah, you know, some people just don't like the rule of law. They don't like that courtroom, and they're not intimidated by that courtroom, even when they've got, you know, they're handcuffed and whatnot. And sometimes your hatred for somebody who absolutely took everything from you, took your loved one from you, or destroyed you, sometimes, you know, takes any kind of precedence of law or whatnot out the window, and you just want to get your hands on the person who destroyed your life. It's human emotion, and it's perfectly entitled for people to have those human emotions and react the way they have when they've lost something or someone very close to them. It's perfectly understandable to feel that way. So I understand. I understand that feeling. I understand that feeling. I really, really do. Moving on to the next story, guys. All the way into Europe in the Baltic states. Very interesting one here indeed. So the Baltic states begin the historic switch away from Russia's power grid. So more than 30 years after leaving the Soviet Union, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania have begun to unplug from Russia's electricity grid and join the EU's network. So they've been tied, obviously, to Russia's power grid for a long, long time. And it's a long process. It's something that they've been looking to switch away and be more connected to the EU and not be hamstrung by Russia. They have made significant progress on that, I think it's fair to say as well. But yeah, for a long time, the Baltic states have always been, you know, been part of the Soviet Union, part of Russia, and since their independence, you know, I think the saving grace for them more than anything has been joining NATO. You know, that has been the saving grace for for all those countries and its people. Because without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, that joining NATO has been a saving grace for them. That a lot of their generation, that a lot of the new generation over the past 20 years or so have grown up to live a free and independent life, not free from the power of Russia. They've been able to live a life in those countries without the fear of Russia. I say that because of NATO, that bargaining chip of NATO. Despite what's happening in Ukraine, it's been it's had, I would say, yeah, that have they been perfect for those nations? Of course not. But they're certainly a lot happier than they have been when they were a part of Russia, I think it's fair to say. But this is another step here, another step where they move away from Russia and more towards the EU. This is. So the 2-day process began on Saturday morning, with residents told to charge their devices, stock up on food and water, and prepare as if a severe weather is forecast. Many have been told not to use lift, while in some areas traffic lights will have been turned off. A giant specified made clock will count down the final seconds before the transition to a landmark ceremony in Lithuania's capital on Sunday, attended by the EU's chief Ursula von der Leyen. So by the time you hear this, the story probably would have already happened by the time you see this, guys. The three nations will then officially transition away from the grid that has connected them to Russia since the years after World War II. The so-called Bell power grid, which stands for Belarus, Russia, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, is controlled almost entirely by Moscow and has long been seen as a vulnerability for the former Soviet republics, which are now NATO members. None of them has purchased electricity from Russia since 2022. Their connection to the Bell grid has left them dependent on Moscow for energy flow. After disconnecting on Saturday morning, the three countries will carry out frequent tests before integrating into the European grid via Poland on Sunday. We are now removing Russia's ability to use the electricity system as a tool of geopolitical blackmail, Lithuania's energy minister told the AFP news agency. I'm not going to be able to say that name, guys. It's the circulation of efforts of over more than 10 years or 20 years to reduce that energy independence, Professor David Smith at the Baltic Research Unit at the University of Glasgow had told the BBC. When the Baltic states joined the EU and NATO, everybody talked about them being an energy island that was still dependent on the joint electricity network with Belarus and Russia, said Smith. That has been completely broken now. Tensions between the Baltic states and Russia, which shared a combined 543-mile-long border, have soared since the Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Since then, a spate of suspected sabotage incidents have involved electricity cables and pipelines in the Baltic Sea have prompted fears that Moscow could retaliate against the shifts towards EU energy. In the past 18 months, at least 11 cables running under the Baltic Sea have been damaged. In recent cases, a ship from Russia, a shadow fleet of oil tankers, was accused of damaging Estonia's main power grid in the Gulf of Finland. The Kremlin declined to comment. NATO has not accused Russia, but has responded by launching a new patrol mission in the region named Baltic Sentry. We cannot rule out some kind of provocation. That's why Latvian and foreign security authorities are on high alert, Latvian's President Egars had said on Wednesday. Clearly, there are risks. We understand that very well. Latvian Prime Minister Salvinia echoed. The risks are identified and there is contingency plans. A spokesperson for the NATO Energy Security Centre of Excellence told the BBC that in recent months, frequent emergency operation tests have been carried out to help prepare for the potential target attacks on the energy system. The head of Estonia's Cybersecurity Centre, Gev Avot, told the BBC in a statement that Russia may attempt to exploit this period to create uncertainty, but said it was due to international cooperation. Estonia was well prepared and even for worst-case scenarios. He added that cyber attacks against the country have surged following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and ranged from hacktivist-driven DDoS attacks, that's distributed denial of service, to more sophisticated targeted operations against government agencies and business. The Baltic states have been on watch for disinformation and campaigns related to the transition. Shortly after they notified Russia of their decision to withdraw from brawl in August 2024, campaigns emerged on social media falsely warning of supply failures and soaring prices in the country were to leave the joint power grid. Yeah, because there are obviously those who are trying to keep them in the spear of Russia, and it's not exactly working, is it, for them? This is a very monumental change for them. I'm very happy for the Baltic states. This is hugely significant for them. Once again, the European Union, its friends and allies who they've been a part of, to move away from that and have a bit more to have that freedom. And once again, another leverage that Russia can't have over the Baltic states, I think, is another very good thing. So it's a very good moment for them, and I couldn't be happier for them. But obviously, they must always remain on high alert, because as long as they always have a border with Russia, they're not always 100% safe. But that being a part of NATO really does make significant difference for them. So guys, I'm going to take a little break here. We've got about 22 minutes in. I've got 3 more articles for you guys here. Will be very unlikely if we make the hour mark. Bearing in mind, but my voice is already cracking, as you guys know. My voice has not been 100%, but I wanted to, at least, because I didn't record World's Newsround last week, I wanted to make sure I recorded one this week for you guys. I really did. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this funny video for you while I catch my breath. This one is from Foil and Arms with the headline of How Different Countries Teach History. So I hope you guys enjoy this.
And then civilization was brought to the savages, who for some reason didn't like it.
Following government orders, please remove chapters 5 through 10.
Everything wrong with this country is because of the British.
This is not going to be a fun class.
Well, we better get on with it.
All human life began here, in Africa.
And then on the 3rd day, God created the earth.
We were attacked by
The British.
The British.
The British.
The British.
the British.
And they welcomed us with open arms.
Right here, the birthplace of democracy.
Here, the birthplace of democracy.
We have a truly ancient history. Stonehenge, over 4,000 years old.
Newgrange, 5,000 years old.
7,000 years old.
2,000 years
4,000 years old.
Over 100 years old.
Then a large and terrifying army
A small company of friendly tea sellers
arrived from England.
set out for India.
They tried, but the Romans couldn't conquer the Scots. The weather in Scotland was so shit, we chose not to.
Oliver Cromwell, yes, who was, of course,
A complete and utter monster.
one of our greatest heroes.
In Africa, we were looking to spread
Christianity.
Christianity.
Obviously, they wanted all our gold and natural resources.
And remember, if you don't understand your past,
You will never understand your future.
Yes, Liam.
what about women in history?
Excellent question. No one knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
That was very good. That was very, very good. That's my first time seeing that as well, guys. Do check out Foreign Arms. Yeah, the headline of that video was How Different Countries Teach History. Link for it's down below. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to their channel. Absolutely wonderful stuff from Foreign Arms, guys. Really, really great stuff. Guys, just a reminder as well, if you haven't, hit that like button, share across social media here on this channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and do consider checking out the membership if you're not a member. Financially support me in the work that I do. You get access to custom emojis as well as membership community posts. And you could also check out the Patreon and Rumble for exclusive content on those platforms as well. There's other links for like the free Discord community. You can also find me on other social medias down below on the links tree. So check out all the links down below. Thank you very much for listening. Let us carry on, guys. Unfortunately, I don't know how my voice is going to get through this, but we are going to press on, guys. The next one is from Al Jazeera with the headline that Iran dismisses talks with the US as it blasts the new sanctions. The Supreme Leader says negotiating with America is neither smart, wise, or honorable. Yeah, Iran is pretty much isolated now. They really have no close friends. Russia are kind of dealing with their own stuff. They are still allies, but since they can't. It's much harder for them to supply Hezbollah now in Lebanon because of what happened in Syria. They can still supply the Houthi rebels in Yemen, but they are quite isolated now in the Middle East. I think it's fair to say. Israel do pose a serious threat to Iran, as well as the US always still poses a threat. And it's not crazy to think that there is a possibility that the US and Iraq and Israel could invade Iran. It's not impossible. I really cannot say that it's entirely possible that it can happen in the next 4 years, because Donald Trump is crazy enough to do these things. I really hope not. I really, really hope not. But because Iran, I can see them, if they're not already producing, trying to produce some kind of nuclear weapons. I can also see America claiming that they have weapons of mass destruction. And I can see the UK getting somehow dragged in and involved as well. Because that's how stupid British politicians can be as well. I really hope not. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I do fear. For me, it's all about the people of Iran. Yes, of course they hate Britain, they hate the West and whatnot because they've been and whatnot. But many innocent lives will suffer as by actions that Israel and the US could take against them. So Iran has hit out at the United States for imposing new sanctions against its oil industry, as the Supreme Leader warned against and mooted talks with Washington. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran on Friday condemned the sanctions, announced the previous day is illegitimate and unlawful, the official IRNA news agency have reported. The decision of the new US administration to extend pressure on the Iranian people by preventing Iran from conducting legitimate trade with its economic partners is an illegitimate and unlawful action, spokesperson Imri Abbasqadi has said. Iran holds the United States responsible for the consequences and repercussions of such unilateral and bullying actions, he added. The Supreme Leader later remarked that negotiations with the US is not smart, wise, or honorable. US President Donald Trump suggested earlier this week that he plans to raise the pressure on Iran and then reach a verified nuclear peace agreement. During his previous term in office in 2018, Trump pulled the US out of the 2015 pact between Iran and world powers designed to control Tehran's nuclear capabilities and reimpose harsh sanctions. Those measures prompted Tehran to violate the pact's limitations. Negotiating with America is neither smart, wise, or honorable. It will not solve any of our problems. The reason, experience. Kamagatsky was quoted as saying on Friday, adding that Iran had made concessions in the past, but the US tore up previous agreements. He warned that if the US threatens Iran's security, Tehran will threaten the US security. The sanctions announced on Thursday were the first ones to be levied on Iran since Trump returned to the White House. The US president has promised to bring Iran's crude exports to zero. declaring them part of an ambition to halt Iran's nuclear program. The measures target Iran's ships, firms, and individuals affiliated with companies already sanctioned by the US. The individuals and tankers affected to ship millions of barrels of Iranian crude oil to China annually. Germany, France, and the UK have been holding diplomatic talks with Tehran in recent months in the hope of seeking a route towards the resuming a joint comprehensive plan of action. That's the JCPOA. The pact that Trump will unilaterally scupper in 2018. A senior Iran official told the Reuters news agency on Wednesday that Iran is ready to give the US a chance to resolve disputes. Iran has long rejected sanctions against its oil sector and views efforts to confiscate its exports as piracy. Whether just trying to stump and stifle Iran's oil capabilities here, but I do feel there's a bigger picture coming. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong about the prospects of the US and Israel going to war with Iran of some sorts. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, and that it's just a lot of talk, because there's been a lot of talk. We know that, for example, China has always been looking at ways to try and take back Tibet. Take Tibet, and Tibet has obviously relied heavily. Taiwan. My apologies. I've been trying to take the island Taiwan, and it's obviously the help of US covering Taiwan has helped them significantly. But I just wonder, because they have such a volatile idiot running America right now, can I see America stupid enough to start some kind of war with Iran? Yes, I can, because we got a president that's stupid enough to do so. I can see Elon Musk not be down for it. Don't worry, I'll edit that out. But yeah, I'll try and keep it. We'll keep an eye on it as best we can here on the channel. It's got 2 more articles to go through, the guys. Both of them are around America. Excuse me. This one is from NBC News. It's exclusive from them. So apparently Trump is angry that deportation numbers are higher. So arrests and deportations of undocumented people are lower than what President Donald Trump has promised, and that is driving him nuts, one source told NBC News. Yeah, because some of those people who are undocumented are actually big contributors to American society. And apparently he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that there are people who are contributing to American society that aren't legally there. And apparently that bothers him. Well, no, it's so ridiculous. It really, really is. They're helping drive America's economy, and it's going to do the absolute opposite effects to him. But Trump throwing his toys out the pram over this would not surprise me one bit, guys. So agents at Immigration and Customs Enforcement are under increasing pressure to boost the number of arrests and deportations of undocumented immigrants, as President Donald Trump has expressed anger that the amount of people who are deported in the first week of his administration is not higher, according to 3 sources familiar with discussions at the ICE and the White House. A source familiar with Trump's thinking said the president is getting angry that more people are not being deported and that the message is being passed along to the border Kaiser. Tom Holtman, Homeland Security Secretary Christine Nolan, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, and Acting ICE Director Caleb Vito. It's driving him nuts that they're not deporting more people, said the person familiar with Trump's thinking. After 4 years of the Biden administration's outright incompetence and negligence, the Trump administration has re-established a no-nonsense enforcement of and the respect for the immigration laws of the United States, Kuskdeski, a White House spokesperson, said in a statement. Hundreds of violent, predatory, and gang-affiliated illegal criminal aliens have already been rounded up and deported by ICE since President Trump took office, and the Trump administration is aligned on securing our borders and ensuring that mass deportations are conducted quickly and effectively to put Americans and America first. A source familiar with internal conversations at ICE said Hoffman had a daily conference call with ICE agents, which has been known to express his frustration with ICE numbers. Another source said Hoffman is unhappy that he has made his unhappiness known. about the relatively low number of arrests and deportations. So he's angry. He's even more angry because, yeah, his angerness has been revealed, apparently. Meanwhile, at ICE, Vito told agents in January to aim to meet a daily quota of 1,200 to 1,400 arrests, according to the numbers ICE has posted on X. The highest daily single total since Trump was inaugurated was just 1,100, and that number has fallen since that day. On Tuesday of this week, arrests of immigrants were over 800, according to a source familiar with the numbers. But last weekend there were only about 300 arrests. Another source told NBC News. Oh dear, that's going to upset him. In order to fulfill Trump's inauguration day promise of millions and millions of deportations, the Trump administration would have to be deporting over 2,700 immigrants every day to reach 1 million in a year. And as NBC News has reported, arrests do not always equal immediate detentions, much less deportations. Of the more than 8,000 immigrants arrested in the first 2 weeks of the Trump House, 461 were released, according to the White House. Yeah, because they probably had their documents, or people helped get them the documentation they needed to get them out. So, So yeah, it's not exactly gone exactly as planned for the President of the United States when it comes to the deportation numbers. But this is also, I also have to give credit where credit is due. There are obviously in some, in particular the blue states, where they have done a very good job of protecting undocumented people in their countries as well. We know that they tried to do a big raid in Chicago, and it got pushed back. Hence why I believe they're suing hence why I believe they're suing Chicago over that. ICE tried to crack down on those in Chicago, and the people were defiant and against that. But I'm sure ICE has been trying to target other areas. It's much easier for them to do it in red states because there won't be so much pushback. Yeah, they will be targeting some of the blue states as well. But yeah, I hope the numbers stay low. But I can see them trying to bend the rules and laws and whatnot to try and get more people deported in doing so, guys. So that is a risk as well. So the final story I've got for you guys is a piece from the New York Times. Some of you guys may have already heard this story already. So it is Judge Halts access to Treasury payment systems by Elon Musk's team. The order came in response to a lawsuit filed by 19 attorney generals accusing the president of failing to faithfully execute the nation's laws when he left Doge comb through federal computer systems. Now I've got to be honest about this. While it sounds welcoming, it sounds good that judges halts this access, I can see Elon Musk and his team just ignoring it and carrying it on. This is the problem. As of right now, I mean, it may temporarily pause what Elon Musk and his team are doing. And I say may, but the thing is, there's nothing stopping them ignoring the court rulings and just carrying on as well. This is the thing that I fear the most. And if the courts become, how can I put this? They become invalid. Like they put an order in and they don't respond to it. And then they put out an arrest warrant for them. And the police don't arrest them because they're part of the government or something. What happens then? See, this is where things get really dicey. You know, Congress are supposed to have powers in all of this as well. Like, where's Congress in all of this as well? This is another question that I ask myself as well. So I really do fear what comes next here. It has been very, very scary for many Americans out there who rely on the system, on the Treasury payment system. Those who have details of and access of address, bank accounts, and details and whatnot, and it's being looked at by Elon Musk and his team. It's very, very scary for them. I mean, it'd be terrifying for me knowing that there are people who are not in the government, that people who aren't part of the government who are looking at your payment systems. That is incredibly frightening. I know that people in the British government from HMRC, that's Her Majesty's Revenue Customs, have access to my details. They have access to my name, my address, and information about me. It would be terrifying, absolutely terrifying, if for some reason, if something was to happen like that here, like someone was to access HMRC's accounts and look at people's details, like self-employment details and all that kind of stuff, that would be frightening for me, because then I would feel threatened that my information is being looked at by somebody who's not a government official or a civil servant, for that matter. It's a very scary thought, and it's very scary for Americans, understandably so. So, a federal judge early on Saturday temporarily restricted access by Elon Musk government's effectively program to the Treasury Department payments and data systems, saying there are a risk of irreplaceable harm. Trump administration's new policy of allowing political appointees and special government employers access to these systems, which contain highly sensitive information such as bank details, heightens the risk of leaks of the system becoming more vulnerable than before to hacking, U.S. District Judge Paul A. Elon said in an emergency order. The Judge Elon ordered that any such official who's granted access to the system since January 20th is to destroy any and all copies of material downloaded to the Treasury Department records and systems. He's also restricted the Trump administration from granting access to these categories of officials. The defendants, President Trump, Treasury Secretary Scott Bennett, and the Treasury Department, should show cause on February the 14th before Judge Janine Alvarez, who is handling the case on a permanent basis, the Judge Elgameyer has said. The order came in response to a lawsuit filed on Friday by Letitia James of New York, along with 18 other Democratic state attorney generals, charging that when President Trump gave Mr. Musk the run of government computer systems, he had breached protection enshrined in the Constitution and failed to faithfully execute the laws enacted by Congress. The attorneys general said the president had gave virtually unfettered access to the federal government's most sensitive information to youth aides who worked for Mr. Musk, who runs a program the administration calls the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, though it is not an actual department. While the group was supposedly assigned to cut costs, members are attempting to access government data to support initiatives to block federal funds from reaching certain disfavored beneficiaries. According to the suit, Mr. Musk has publicly stated his intention was to recklessly freeze streams of federal funding without warning. The suit said, pointing to his social media post in recent days. Efforts to reach press officers at the White House were not immediately successful. Mr. Musk's team was given access to the government's most fundamental computer data, including the US Treasury Department's payment system, which is used to disperse funds, including Social Security benefits, veteran benefits, and federal employees' wages. The system, which channels about 90% of the payments for the US government, which spends about $6.75 trillion last fiscal year, pays funds directly to the people in the states as well as to state governments, the suit says. Before President office, sorry, I do apologise, my voice is all over the place. Before President Trump took office last month, access was granted to only a limited number of career civil servants with security clearances, the suit said, but Mr. Musk's efforts had interrupted federal funding for health clinics, preschools, and climate initiatives, according to the filing. The money had been allocated by Congress. The Constitution assigns to lawmakers the job of deciding government spending. President Trump does not have the power to give away Americans' private information to anyone he chooses, and he cannot cut federal funding approved by Congress, Mr. James said in a statement. Musk and Doge have no authority to access America's private information and some of our country's most sensitive data. The lawsuit was filed in concert with the Attorney Generals of Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Wisconsin. It is one of many resisting Mr. Trump's aggressive actions since he took office last month. 3 unions this week sued the U.S. government, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, and the government's Human Resource Division to block an effort to pursue roughly 2 million federal employees to resign. 2 anonymous sets of FBI agents and employees sued to keep the Trump administration from releasing the identities of people who have been working on investigations into the Capitol riots on January 6, 2021. They won an order on Friday requiring the administration to keep their names secret. Mr. James and other attorneys generals challenged Mr. Trump's executive order, attempted to end birthright citizenship. This week, she warned New York hospitals that complying with a White House executive order seeking to end gender-affiliated medical care for young people could violate state law. The actions of Doge bulldozing through the federal government have been confounding and concerning to Democratic lawmakers and federal employees. With licenses from Mr. Trump, Mr. Musk's mandate appears to be vast. His team tried to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development, a key international source of foreign assistance. On Friday, a federal judge in Washington ordered a pause on an effect to put 2,200 USAID employees on leave and rapidly withdraw employees stationed abroad. On Friday, Mr. Trump said that Mr. Musk would turn his attention to the Pentagon, which has billions of dollars in contracts with companies Mr. Musk owns. The heart of the lawsuit filed by Mr. James Coalition on Friday was focused on Mr. Musk's access to the Treasury Department. The department's system is a repository of some Americans' most sensitive information, including social security numbers and bank account numbers, which the Attorney General says puts residents and of their state at personal risk. In a video message on Friday, Mr. James said that the President does not have the power to give away our private information away to whoever he wants, as Democratic Attorney Generals were suing to stop this unprecedented and unauthorized attack, she said. But can they stop this? This is the thing. Like, these judges and whatnot, they're throwing all this at them, and I commend everyone doing their part and using the powers of the U.S. laws to stop them. And everyone's saying they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this. But they are attempting to do this. They are trying to do this. And like I said, what is to stop them basically saying, who cares, we're just going to carry on doing this. This is the part that really sticks out to me. Like, I can see them continuously carrying on and ignoring all this. Who's going to take action then? Like, what are you going to do? Issue an arrest warrant? Are people going to try and arrest Elon Musk? I could see the president and the government officials trying to stop it. Like, it's just going to be absolutely crazy. It is literally like the civil servant, the system, the US system itself versus the Trump administration. It's so chaotic. Rather than working as one whole entity, it's chaos. It's absolute pandemonium chaos. Because they want to rip everything apart. They want to rip everything apart. While China and Russia are laughing. They're laughing at America right now. And they're going to be taking advantage of every single opportunity they can while America is in chaos as well. It's very frightening time. And every week there's going to be something chaotic coming. Every week something mad is going to happen. The very fact that they were able to access it, and they pushed the people out of the way, and the people who stood in the way, they just put them on leave, and then they just gained access. It's insane. Absolutely bloody insane. And so many people who've worked in these departments, who know these things better than anyone. The civil servants, neither Democrats or Republicans, there to do a job. Protect Americans. Ensure that their payments then get through. They've been pushed aside by these vile, vulgar vultures. It's just disgusting. They have no idea what they're dealing with. They really don't. They have no idea the repercussions that they're imposing as well. Like, I'm sure enough people have said to him, if you do this, people will die. If you do this, you are killing people. I mean, I don't understand this, this message. That people need to hammer the message into Elon Musk's team. You do this, you will kill people. You are going to literally kill Americans. You are killing people around the world as a direct result of this. You're going to kill people. You can't do that. You can't kill people. You literally put staining blood on your hands by these actions. But that is the situation. Well, we will continue to keep an update on it as much as I possibly can, guys. But that is the end of the World's News Round. We've just gone under 49 minutes. Let me know what you guys thought of all the stories that we covered here tonight on World's News Round. I do apologise if my voice was not the best, but I do hope that the news that I brought you today was informative and helpful to you in some way, shape or form. No guarantees that my voice will recover anytime soon. But I will press on, and I will continue to use everything, lockets, lens slip, and all that kind of stuff to keep my voice going for you guys. But I wanted to get a World's News Round out for you guys. But so thank you very much if you have watched this through the premiere video. Make sure before you leave you hit the like button, share this across social media, and subscribe for further content. Do check out the Patreon and Rumble content for additional content as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.